Gervon Dexter talks about the impression that rookie Shamar Turner has already made on him and others in the Bears organization already. We're going to talk a little bit about that, plus 5 players to watch on the defensive side of the ball in training camp. We're talking about all that plus more right after this.
You are now tuned in to Chicago Bears Central, your number one place for all Chicago Bears news and content.
What's going on, Bears fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bears Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related. I'm the host, Darrell Hayes, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Chi Bears Central on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go and get into this content today, y'all. And Gervon Dexter is talking. I mean, we already have heard from Gervon Dexter in regards to like what he's learned from Grady Jarrett as far as being a leader, ready to step up into that role for the Chicago Bears this season. We've heard a lot about that when it came down to it. The Bears drafted defensive tackle Shamar Turner in the second round of this past draft, right? And that's on top of getting Grady Jarrett in there. And so they are clearly looking at trying to build a defensive line for the future, maybe even finding the future, defensive lineman to go with Gervon Dexter long-term and pair with that. We look at Shamar Turner in 4 seasons at Texas A&M, 115 tackles, 25 and a half tackles for a loss, 10 sacks, 3 forced fumbles. That is really good. And he's a player that is going to take a little bit of time to develop at the NFL level, but Gervon Dexter thinks the world of him saying this. He has all the tools. He's very athletic, very talented. So getting another guy like that, I'll be able to grow with and see him, you know what I mean, read some stuff of the stuff that he want to do as well. And so that is something that can be easily overlooked in sports in general. Is that when you draft players that can grow and develop together, and how like having that ideal of like, this is who I'm growing to play with, how they kind of streamline the things that you need to kind of overcome and cover up for each other and things like that, right? So there's no doubt that Shamar Turner is not going to maybe play a lot of snaps, especially if everybody's healthy. Grady Jarrett, Andrew Billings, these are guys that's definitely going to be ahead of Shamar Turner, no doubt. Zach Pickens is going to try to make his case. Don't know how successful he's going to be in that, right? But Shamar Turner even having those veterans there as well, and a guy like Dennis Allen, right, as your defensive coordinator, those are things that's going to help the development there. And Gervon Dexter should benefit from that too. Being this his second year as a full-time starter, that's going to be important for Gervon Dexter. So the fact that Dex is already looking and seeing Shamar Turner and thinking about, hey, I want to watch and see how he reads, how he reacts, how we can grow together, how we can form this duo, that's great. Now, is it going to work out? That comes down to the work that both these guys are willing to put in to continue to grow and develop, especially under this coaching staff. And like I've said before, with other players, talent only gets you so far in the NFL. That raw talent only gets you so far. You have to be willing and able to put in the work to refine your game every single year. There's almost not a single year that you can take off in development if you want to be great in this league. And you're going to have to see that. And Gervon Dexter's in a perfect place of that himself, starting off last season on fire, still having some issues in the run game, but then also falling off after Andrew Billings and the other injuries on that defensive line. Gervon Dexter has his own things that he needs to show. The rookie Shamar Turner, of course, is not going to have that level of responsibility, not expectedly. You never know what's going to happen with injuries or anything like that in his first year. But Shamar Turner is a definitely development piece on this team that you just cannot overlook. And what he's going to bring to this team potentially in the long run is exactly what had Dennis Allen excited. It's what had Ryan Poles excited to draft him. And now we just got to see how we're going to develop it. And it feels like for once for the Chicago Bears, we have a coaching staff that you can trust to develop some stuff out of players, right? I haven't had that in a while. The Bears coaching staff has left much to be desired with over the last couple of years. And so now when you got guys like Shamar Turner coming in here, Zay Frazier in the defensive backs, these young guys that are raw, Ruben Hippolyte, right? These are guys that you can all see finding ways to contribute in their rookie years. But of course, how they develop, how they build over this first season and going into next season and things like that are really going to determine where they are in this. I talked about Zay Frazier yesterday as somebody who, if he grows and develops, could cause the Bears to look at and say, hey, are we really about to pay Tyreek Stevenson? Not the fact of that Tyreek is bad, but just the case of, hey, if you got a young guy who's ready to step up, it makes some decisions a little bit easier, right? So, we'll see what Shamar Turner brings. He's another guy that in this rookie class that a lot of people are excited about because of the potential that he brings on that defensive line. We just got to see it actually turn into something. And that's where things sometimes have fell down for the Bears, is not always, showing what the expectation or what the hope has been for certain players. And so we're hoping that that's going to be staved off this year, and that we're going to actually start seeing some of these young guys that we develop and things start showing consistency. And that's what we really need, right, from this team. So we'll see. But, shout out to Gervon Dexter. Shout out to Shamar Turner getting the kind words from third-year guy Gervon Dexter there. But that brings about another thing, right, is that the Bears are officially on holdout watch right now, right? And that is that, that the second-round picks for the Chicago Bears have not signed their deals as it stands right now. Shamar Turner being one of those guys, right? Training camp is only a week away. And while I did say on yesterday's episode, I fully expect maybe within the first couple of days of training camp us to get these second-round rookies signed. But right now, they're unsigned. Matter of fact, most of the NFL's second-round rookies have yet to sign their rookie contracts. And that is our 3 second-round picks. Luther Burden, Ozzy Tripillo, and defensive tackle Shamar Turner have all remained unsigned up until this point, right? And there's still 30 of NFL's 32 second-round picks who remain unsigned around the league. So the Bears aren't unique in that sense that we're the only ones to not have our second-round picks signed, but the Bears do have 3 of them. And 2 of those 3 are shaped up to play a big role with the Chicago Bears. Like I said, Shamar Turner is going to be maybe a little bit slower to be consistently in that rotation just because of the veterans that he has in front of him. But Luther Burden and Ozzy Tripillo, these are 2 players that are competing for starting spots on this team. And the fact that they have not yet signed, of course, is raising a little bit of concern in some Bears fans on what's going to happen here. And overall, I'll say this, man. I don't think that is much. I don't think it's much to worry about in my personal opinion. The Bears are set to report to training camp on Saturday. So there you go on that one. And, so I think that the contract negotiations are probably either going to get solved by then, or they could turn into a holdout situation by July 23rd, right? And so the question now becomes of, are the Bears going to be one of the teams that suffer that fate? I guarantee you some of the second-round picks, you have 30 or 32 second-round picks not signed their contracts yet. Some of those guys are going to turn into holdouts, which is crazy to see. But you got Ozzy Tripillo competing for a starting left tackle job. Like you don't want to put shit on that, right? You got Luther Burden, who has Olamide Zaccheaus right there, ready to be a starting slot receiver if for some reason he's too far behind the 8 ball. And so it really sucks, right? According to Over the Cap right now, Luther Burden is expected to make around $10.9 million through the first 4 years. Ozzy Tripillo's at 7.7, and Shamar Turner's at 7.2. So it's now going to be like, which one of these guys signs first? Is it going to be Luther Burden? Is it going to be Ozzy Tripillo? Is it going to be Shamar Turner? Who's going to be the guy that signs with signs first? And then is that kind of a domino thing to fall when it comes down to that? We'll see, right? I would hope that all 3 of those guys are going to be under contract by time camp starts on Wednesday. You would just love for that to be the case, because nobody wants to go into a situation, especially your start of your NFL career, dealing with contract nonsense. Now, what's more than likely, when you see this around the league happen this much, to me, this tells me that not only are players kind of more aware with the NIL deals that they had to sign and kind of getting exposed to that a little bit earlier, but I also think that that the agents around the league have basically said, no, listen, second-round picks, we need a little bit more guaranteed money. And I think that that's kind of what you're seeing as well. There's maybe the amount of money that's guaranteed. The signing bonus, you have a little bit of wiggle room in as well in that negotiation thing. So those are the things that you're kind of probably looking at for these teams, but I'm not too worried about it. I worry about it if training camp opens and we start hearing holdout stuff. That's where I'll start panicking a little bit more, to just be 100% honest with you. That's where my antennas will be up and my nerves will be a little bit crazy if that were to happen then. But as it stands right now, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I think we're going to be perfectly fine. I think that that these guys are going to get signed up, and then we're going to be able to go through training camp and be exactly where we need to be, a team focused on doing what it takes and putting in the work to win. That's where this team needs to be at. That's the focus that I want this team to be on. And if we can get to that point, great. If not, then it's going to be a little tense around there. But no, I'm not too worried about it, man. And ultimately, too, I think these guys all have, especially Ozzy Tripillo and Luther Burden, they have so many other things that they need to worry about other than contracts. You're competing for a starting spot. And then to keep that starting spot, that means that you're going to have to know the playbook like the back of your hand. You're going to want, for Luther Burden, he's going to want that shorthand with Caleb Williams and to work on that chemistry because, hey, you can be a good slot, but if you don't have that chemistry with your quarterback, while that can be worked out over the season, that is what training camp is for, to get that chemistry down so then you can build off of that once preseason games and the games start. So we'll see what happens here. Let me know down below, how concerned are you over the second-round draft picks not signing yet for the Chicago Bears? Or do you think any of these guys could turn into a holdout? How do you feel if they were to turn out into a holdout situation? Would that completely change the way that you view any of these guys? Let me know that down below. Like I said, I'm personally not too worried about it as it stands right now. I think way worse things could have happened. And yeah, I'm just not worried about it. Now, that could absolutely blow up in my face. Make no mistake about it. But as it stands right now, I ain't too worried about it. But with that said, we talked about under the radar players for a training camp for the offense. Let's turn around and look at that as the defense, right? And I think that there are a couple of names here that really stand out as players, of course, that you're looking to either have standouts, that you're looking to build off of what they did last year. Whatever way you want to look at it, you're just looking for something from these players and that they have the possibility of showing that. And I think the first one that I want to bring up here for sure is Zay Frazier. You've heard me talk a lot about Zay Frazier. And I think what he brings to that defensive back unit, the unique combination of size and speed that he has, and how for Dennis Allen specifically, he can be an absolute monster under Dennis Allen's system, right? When you look at where the Bears have had some success in late round defensive backs in the draft, right? Look at Nathan Vasher, a late round pick. Zachary Bowman, a late round pick, right? Guys that have gotten picked late but have had really damn good careers, right? And can Zay Frazier be the next guy to be that? That's the question when it comes down to it. You look at his ball hawking skills and what he did at UTSA, and the guy that, a college that didn't get a whole lot of notice and things like that. And so when you talk about adding him to a group with Jalen Johnson, Kyler Gordon, Tyreek Stevenson, right? Those type of guys that you look at, listen, Zay Frazier has a tall test in front of him to consistently get into it. But luckily, scheme plays a factor into that. And part of the scheme benefit for a guy like Zay Frazier is the fact that Dennis Allen likes to use a lot of defensive backs. And because he likes to use a lot of defensive backs, it's going to open up a lot of opportunity where it may be in more traditional type defenses that doesn't exist for players that are going to be as far down the depth chart as what Zay Frazier is. But Zay is a guy that I think is going to be not only competing to move up the depth chart as it goes on into the season, he's going to make a real hard, strong case for himself. The next guy up is I'm going to put Noah Sewell here. And the reason why I'm going to say Noah Sewell is mainly because we've heard nothing but good things about Noah Sewell for the first time. He's competing for a starting spot, surprisingly enough. Now, I do think personally Ruben Hippolyte's going to be the one to come around with that. But when you look at Noah Sewell, this is his opportunity. He needs to be one of the guys that we see and that we're surprised about in training camp, because you may not get this opportunity to win a starting position again. So, yeah, you need to be one of the guys that shows out, that dazzles, that surprises people. Because if you don't, it's GG's for you, my boy. So this may be the last case for Noah Sewell to get out of the shadows of where he's been on this team and actually get into the rotation. Now, even if he does not win the starting job, and that does go to Ruben Hippolyte, the depth at the linebacker position, it's not plentiful. So he still could have an opportunity to make a name for himself there if he does good enough in this battle for the starting position. It just remains to be seen how it's going to work out for him, but we shall see. But Noah Sewell's definitely a guy on the list that I think you should watch out for in training camp as well. Then let's get to one of the guys that's kind of more so quiet in this case, Tasheem Johnson, right? Now, when you look at it, Tasheem Johnson is a guy that I can absolutely see as an undrafted free agent making this Bears team. Now, he may have to go through the practice squad first, but when you look at Kevin Byard, Jaquan Brisker, right? Jaquan Brisker's back healthy. It seems like he's very motivated. We're going to talk a little bit about him to end the show. But Kevin Byard, like, there's an opportunity for Tasheem Johnson to show, hey, I can be one of your safeties of the future here, right? And if the Bears do end up re-signing Kevin Byard at the end of this deal and have a guy like Tasheem Johnson that as a UDFA started showing you some things, that may be what you do. Johnson was on an Oregon team that he led in interceptions last year, right? And when you look at the number of teams that he played against some really good teams when it came down to it. Tasheem Johnson is a guy that I think has the positional fit, the scheme fits there as well. I think all of that is there to make sense for Tasheem Johnson. This guy's a guy who's been tested in big games, and as long as he flashes some of that in training camp and in the preseason, where I do think he's going to get an opportunity to play a lot, Deshaun Johnson's a guy. Don't overlook him and his ability to show out in that safety room as well. I know we got Jonathan Owens. We got some depth in there, but Deshaun Johnson has a route to go. These last two guys on this list are the guys that need to step up the most. And one of those guys is Daniel Hardy. Daniel Hardy was a absolute darling in training camp in preseason last year. And you look at it, though, he ended up being primarily on special teams during the regular season. He made one of the biggest plays in the season where he blocked a punt in week 1, which was really good. And he did end up leading the team in special teams tackles. But we need the depth at the edge. And there's no doubt about it, regardless of how you look at Dayo Odeyingbo and Montez Sweat, you're going to have to have solid depth behind those guys. Daniel Hardy is a guy that is shaped up to kind of bring some of that. New coaching change, I think, is going to be able to really use him to the best of his ability. I like Daniel Hardy a lot in that case. And we'll see what happens with Daniel Hardy. The fact is that now, after last season, more people are looking out for Daniel Hardy. So he's not going to be a darling anymore. He's going to be a guy that's expected to kind of step up based off what he did last year. And let's see if he can. So Daniel Hardy's definitely a guy that I say on the defensive side of the ball, look out for in training camp. And then lastly, Austin Booker. For everything that we said. Austin Booker, who was drafted, we knew he was raw, a little bit undersized when it came down to it. But he's a guy that I think, the Bears drafted him looking at him having starter level upside. And a little shortly after the Bears drafted him, you heard that a lot of people had him graded as like a 3rd round talent, something like that. But he was raw. We got him in the 5th round. And he made some plays during the course of his rookie season. But when it comes down to it, I think Booker, with him training, he's been training with Gervon Dexter. He's been training with Grady Jarrett this offseason. He's added more weight to his frame as well to be, better suited for Dennis Allen's system. There's all that, right? And so with the things going on with the Bears, maybe looking at adding another pass rusher, stuff like that, Austin Booker has to step up big time this year if he wants to be in that. And I think that if the Bears do decide to not go after and get a veteran this offseason, to me, that just speaks to their confidence in Austin Booker and Daniel Hardy to a degree in the depth there at the defensive end on what they have here. But Austin Booker is definitely a guy that we should be watching out for. We should be looking at in training camp because I think he has all the ability that you want, all the raw talent and ability that you want. He just has to prove that he can bring it consistently. And if he can, then that's going to help the Bears out tremendously at the next level. So let's hope that can be the case. Austin Booker, definitely a guy I'm looking at to see what he can bring for this team this upcoming year. You guys got to let me know how you guys feel about that down below. Now, I said we're going to talk a little bit about Jaquan Brisker before the end of this show. And Jaquan Brisker has been talking a lot. He's been talking shit to the Packers. I love his Packers shit talk. He's one of the few players on the team that actually seems like he understands that rivalry and how important it is to Bears fans, even though admittedly, it hasn't really been a rivalry in years, right? But Jaquan Brisker has talked about being that Swiss Army knife under Dennis Allen's system. And there's going to be a lot of those guys there, but the defensive backs in general are the guys that can be Swiss Army knives under Dennis Allen. Jaquan Brisker saying this: I want to show my versatility, show that I'm a Swiss Army knife. Kevin Byard, and we're going to have plenty of other DBs out there, which I love about Allen's defense. He moves pieces around. We run so many different things. We can make it all look like the same or vice versa, things like that. That's what I love about it. DA, he's smart, and I know he's going to put us in the right positions. It's going to be smooth. And that it just echoes what we've been saying here at Chicago Bears Central. It echoes what we've heard about Dennis Allen's system as far as not only the number of defensive backs, but how he likes to disguise coverages to keep offenses on their toes. Again, I've said this phrase so many times over the last month. Dennis Allen is as creative defensively as what Ben Johnson is offensively. And because of that, that's how you maximize on skill sets. So yeah, the Bears have a lot of defensive backs, and how they use those guys are going to be really important. But for Jaquan Brisker, it got to come down to, can he stay healthy? Can he stay on the football field? If he can do those things, then great, right? But when you look at him 2 years removed from leading the Chicago Bears in sacks, he did that, right? A guy that has shown more being inside the box and outside the box in coverage in that safety position. And because of what he's already shown over the 3 years of his career, Dennis Allen could be the coach to bring all that together and use it in a singular year to where you're now looking at Jaquan Brisker at what he can be. But same thing is always going to be the same thing for Jaquan. Can you stay healthy? That is always the thing for Jaquan Brisker, is can he stay healthy enough? And that's the question that we don't have an answer to yet. And that's going to be the most important thing. You can't be a broken Swiss Army knife, because guess what that is? That's junk. So, and I don't mean that to sound disrespectful to Jaquan. I know what Jaquan can be when he's on the football field. He has to stay on the football field this year. He has to. And not only for the contract, but for this team, like, we're a better team when Jaquan Brisker's on the field, period. And so that's why you need Jaquan to really be able to step up and bring something for you, because a Jaquan Brisker that's locked in, gearing up, ready to go, that definitely changes some shit with your team. So let's hope that Jaquan Brisker's going to be ready for that. If he is, we're going to be in a pretty damn good place. If not, it's going to get ugly, and it's going to get ugly real quick. So we'll see what this team could bring there, man. But overall, that's my thoughts for today. You guys can follow us at Shy Bear Central. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns, ChicagoBearCentral@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and our voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-242-9336. We are the number one spot for everything Chicago Bears related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, Chi-Town up, but bear down. Love you guys. Peace, y'all.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.